Good morning. Getting hand in on this Saturday. We've got 7-6 clubs. Folds to us. We open raise from low jack position. We get the small blind calls, and we're going to see a flop. So our open raising range from low jack looks something like that. Not an incredibly wide range, only about 19% or so. 7-6 is in there, kind of a bottom of the range. Works well. Again, when you get like middle flops, middle card flops, likely to hit it. Villain's range, however, he's playing 26-5 out of 19 hands, doesn't have a 3-bet. When we look at notes on him, we've got called 2 bets from the blinds range with 8s, ace king suited, queen 3 suited, king queen off. He's called 3 bets in position with jacks, so it kind of makes me think I'm okay with him calling 3 bets with jacks. Kind of makes me think he's playing his pocket pairs, playing suited aces. I was looking at Broadway hands, but then that queen 3 really throws off, so I wouldn't have normally included the suited queens here, but you know, he has it in there, so maybe this is a spot where he'll call with the suited queen, hoping to flop a flush draw. I think he probably has suited connectors, suited one gappers too. That gets up to 25%. I left the ace king in, like all of them, because we do know he called with ace king suited, but I took out aces and kings because I do assume that most people will be raising with aces and kings. I don't even think it's a 50%. But maybe, you know, with more hands, we'll know something different. We just don't have a whole lot of hands to really narrow down his range, but we're going to work with this one. So the flop comes out a7-6, which is great. We flop 2 pair, and this is one of the times where, you know, this is hidden. Best thing you can have. Maybe he'll assume we have ace king, ace queen, maybe ace jack. But we know villain has a bunch of ace-x suited hands in his range as well. So we're going to get paid at least 1 street, maybe even 2 streets if he has one of these ace-x. Just kind of depends on kickers. He checks, not really surprised. It could be a board. This could be a board where a player with like ace-8 or ace-9 might bet just to see what I do. So they're trying to gauge how strong is my kicker, or even do I have an ace. So I've seen that. Maybe even like an ace-5, ace-4 type hand would lead here, but most of the time I think the out of position player is going to check to the pre-flop raiser. So 100% of his range comes to us. What do we do? What do we bet? This is actually a decent flop for us. When we just look at equity graph, you can see that we're ahead across all of the range, so we're going to be c-betting most of the time here. Probably c-betting on the lower side. We don't have a massive nut advantage up here, at least range or total range versus range. So I think when we start looking at what kind of hands do we include in our bluffs, at least it's going to be open-ender and gut shots, which it really isn't a whole lot. It's only 5.6%. So we're going to have to start looking at other hands that we could include as bluffs. So I think pocket pairs, 4s, 5s could be included in there. I think maybe a bottom pair hand, 5-6 could be in there. Maybe middle pair. Kind of going for semi-bluffs. We want to try to fold out some of the equity with like queen jack, jack 10, and if they call, I mean that's okay too, because we still have a pair. But then it falls back on like 2-card backdoor flush draws. So we're gonna probably look at more like Broadway hands. I think we're going to have like 9-8s, maybe like 10-9. It's got shots. All of these, that gets us up to 23. Maybe even all of the King X hands. Those are all gut shots too. That's 29%. If we look at value, we're going at sets, 2 pair, top pair. Maybe not all of our top pair hands here. If we do 37, we need 67. So yeah, we could possibly be betting 100% here. I don't think 100% is right. Um, so I think if we're going to be checking, it might be some of these lower hands that we're checking. Um, maybe sometimes betting the ace nine. So bet for value with those. We'll take ace nine. So eight. Yeah, betting for values with those. Checking behind with pocket pair less than the top card. Maybe I think we include like 8, 9, 10 and leave kings, queens, jacks in there. Now we're getting to a better situation here. And then do you think we're looking at something like that, betting our broadways? That gets us 75%. I think that's probably what we're looking for. And then we'll have some checks. And we'll have some checks that are like, pairs, like top pair hands, some like king, queen, jacks hands, and so forth. So I think that's going to be our betting range. So once you look at our betting range, you can see that we become a little bit better at the top end. I still have an equity edge here. So what do? I bet actually 2/3. I think that might be a little too much. I think we're probably looking closer at like a 2/3 pot bet here. I understand why I did it. Kind of looking at trying to maximize our value with the two pair hand. And I bet GTO would include some of these larger bet sizes with these good hands. So I bet he calls. What is he calling with? Definitely, I think he's calling with all of his top pair. I think he's probably calling with all of these middle pairs. Probably, so the pocket pair below the top card and probably the middle pairs. We'll give him the open ender and we'll give him the gut shot. So we'll say 48% is what he's looking at. So at that point, you can see his equity edge is now much higher than us because he doesn't have a bunch of his draws. It's basically one pair type hands. And this is actually a pretty good thing for us with our two pair hands because it means he's probably going to be calling at least a second street, maybe even a third street. All right, turns a five of clubs. Not my favorite card. Villain checks. I do assume he's going to be checking everything. So then it comes to us. Now we bet most of the time on the flop, so we're going to be scaling it back. So I think let's start with our draws. Flush draw, open ender. That's 22%. I think we're still betting our straights, our sets are two pairs. Our top pair, I think now we can kind of back off with like the ace jack. I think ace queen is probably like sometimes we bet ace queen, sometimes we don't. If we do like half the time we do it, half the time we don't. That gets us to 25%. And then I think we're adding our gut shots here. At least the 2-card gut shots or 1-card gut shots we could probably throw in. That's 32%. If we're going to do 32%, then maybe we change ace queen back to 100%. Oops. Get our color correct. And that could be about right. So we went from 75% down to 62%. This might be a little high. We may have to have a few more checks in our range than this, so that way we have some of our draws in our checking range, which we don't have right now. So I'm going to say that's going to be what I bet. I bet the pot. I think that's okay. We sized up. I think it would have been like a smaller size, a third bet, 1/3 pot, and then maybe 2/3 pot on the turn. We're kind of representing a hand that's vulnerable, that doesn't want people to draw, which might be like an ace X, like ace king, ace queen. With that sizing, I think at this point we're dealing with the top pair, only top pair, and maybe the flush draw and the gut shot. So it's 75%. I think he would fold out the eights, the queens, and even with the aces, it just kind of comes down to, is he going to call with a weaker kicker at this size? I'd say no. I think we're narrowing it down to something like that. maybe ace jack to ace king, or a pot size bet like that. Now he raises. Oops, I guess we gotta fix that. Now he raises. What's he gonna raise with? I think all three of these straight sets, two pair he raises. I think he could possibly be raising with like ace king. Not sure with ace queen. I think I see ace king raise a lot. Maybe ace queen. I think we will go back to like 50% here on ace queen. Actually, we'll go smaller. We'll do like 33% on ace queen. What about the flush draws? We'll only do like solid, like combo draws. So I guess like 8-7 with the flush draw. We know he doesn't have that. 7-6 with the flush draw. We have that. Like two pair with the flush draw. We already have that in there. I don't think 9-7. 8-9 though, I think would bet. 10-8 would do that. I don't think a 10-8, 10-9. I don't think any of those would actually check raise all in like that. I think the open ender's going to be betting like that. Yeah, so I think we have all of the open enders, and the flush draws just kind of narrowed down to, you know, having the flush as well. Let's see here. Gut shots. I think that might be it. So when we think about it, like the hands, he has some draws on there. Top pair, and two pair. I mean, at this point, this check raise is just, it's looking strong. We need to be 30% equity. So you can see just across the board, he's going to be above us. We bet, so we need at least 30% equity, or 2.34 to 1. That's what the pot is giving us. I think we could do combo draws. So I think with our flush draws, we're dealing like, take this out, like a king 8, I think would work. 10-8 would work, where we have the open ender and the flush draw. 9-8 obviously is the straight that we're calling. I don't think like the 9-set, the gut shots we would call. I don't think we have high enough equity for that. Let's take that back. Top pair at this point, we kind of have to consider. We're going to be folding. I think we're probably folding ace queen, and I think I would probably fold ace king. I just, on that, it's a one pair hand. The board's turning scary. Unless we know that this guy could bluff, I don't think we can necessarily do that. We could call with it. I think two pairs is going to be some of the weakest hands that we call, and we're calling straights and sets. Definitely at that. So you can see that with our hand, we're getting 72% versus his 27%, based on our ranges. And that's, I do think, if we run the numbers, you're going to see that I don't think we could always call with these open enders. I don't think we're getting the odds to call. So definitely with the check raise, we're trying to play a bit more exploitative, because I don't think he's going to be doing that with the huge bluff. So with two pair, I'm calling, reluctantly calling, not thrilled to see it. I'm thinking I may have to pull a club to win. Jack of hearts comes out, and he check raised. He didn't check raise all in. So let's get Jack of hearts, and then he leads, and I expect him to lead at this point. So if he's leading with like all of his ace kings, probably betting again with everything up there. Question is, would he do it with all of this weak stuff? Maybe. Because he has all of these just ace x hands in there, I do think we're calling with two pair. I think nothing, we just fold. We have two pair, we're calling. Again, we've just kind of committed ourselves on that turn, and he shows ace king of diamonds. So that was one with where he played check raise. All right, so how do I think it did? I think bet sizing may have been off on the flop and then on the turn. And then on the turn, once we face the check raise, it's probably best if we're going to commit to the hand that we just go ahead and raise ourselves. At that point, we're giving a lot away. But I think his check raising range is strong enough that I don't think he's going to get rid of it. I don't think he's going to fold. Even if he has ace 4, he's going to call. Ace 8's going to call. Ace king's going to call. Ace queen's going to call, and so forth. So what does GTO say here? So I've set up the ranges in GTO. I said that villain's going to check 100%. So now let's look at what we're looking at what's best. So it does seem like we're probably betting a little too much. So I had 70 something. GTO's arguing for about 57%. So there's fewer hands that we're betting. I had 5s in there and 4s in there as kind of a bluff hand. We do have some of those, but if we're not going to be betting as many of our top pair hands for value, you could say here, which I think we're right on the top pairs. Ace queen, ace jack off was a bet, so we're not betting as many top pairs. So if we're not going to have as many of those top pair hands, then we don't need as many of these weaker pairs to kind of balance. Open enders are betting, gut shots are betting. Yep, sets are betting and everything. So what about bet sizing? Bet sizing's kind of split between the larger sizing and the smaller sizing. And it does seem to be a little bit evenly split. We go for smaller sizing with pocket aces. We go for larger sizing with 6s and 7s. With two pair, definitely larger sizing. Seems to be preferred with 7-6, but it's about 50. It's about split when you have the top two, or split top and bottom. So that having that ace is important because it's going to be blocking hands. Makes it less likely the villain has one of those top pair hands. So we did. So it looks like our flop bet was actually pretty good. Our flop sizing. Villain calls. What do we have? 5 of clubs. Villain calls. We get 5 of clubs. And then he checks. Now we're betting more. I think that kind of makes sense. If we're only betting about 60% of the time, then we're going to increase our betting because we're betting stronger hands on the flop. So we're betting, at this point I did 50%. I guess we should probably change that then, make it like a pot size bet, but definitely we're betting most of our hands here, including the 2 pairs. So we bet, and then villain raised, and his raise is going to be definitely much stronger. They're saying basically straight, some of the 3 of a kinds, and so forth. So when he raises, you can see 3 of a kind. We're raising on that. Straights we're checking, or we're calling. 2 pair we're calling, and it's because of the sizing that we used. So we might have to fix that. Fix the bet sizing. Let's see if we could do that. We're going to edit tree. We already did this. So we're going to go here. We bet. And then he calls. Okay, and then we'll say he checks here. And then I bet 100%. And then he's going to raise. Is that right? Let's go back to here. Yes. There we go. He checks. Oops. I bet. That should be pot size bet here. All right. I bet pot size. And actually, let's add an action. Let's go. We did 2/3. That's set 50%. And then he's gonna raise it. What did he raise it? Let's see here. I think he raised it about half. Did we bet 16? Guess 66%. Yeah, I think this is 50%. So the pot, he raised 40.6. And then pot at 73 to call is 24 more. That's not right. What, 52.6? Let's just do this. 52.6. So I bet pot and he raised it pot. All right. We will pause and run the solver and we'll be back. All right, so I changed things up a bit. I was wondering about how we were changing the tree. Since we were changing it on the turn, maybe that's going to have an effect on how you play the flop. So if you're going to be raising, check raising, that might affect the range that you're going to be check calling with on the flop and everything. So what I did was took our read of the ranges from the flop, or what we bet, what they call with, and get us to the turn. So then once we get to the turn, now we have our ranges and we have the bet set up. So now we're betting, at this point we're going to be betting about 38%, 37%. That includes our straights, our three of a kinds, our two pair hands. Top pair now becomes somewhat checks, and it kind of keeps us from over betting. Because we don't have a huge number of two pair pluses, we're going to keep some of our flush draws here. It looks like our king high flush draws, those are going to be used for checks, but our lower flush draws that also have combo draws for straights or gut shots, those are going to be our bets. So we do bet, and then villain's going to be raising, and this is where it gets wrong. We have him raising, or GTO has him raising with basically like three of a kind. So once he raises with three of a kind, now you're looking at, we've tightened up basically two pair plus, which is kind of what I was thinking. We throw away our one pair hands because he should be much stronger than what we think. So yeah, I think GTO, I think we're right on. Things that we kind of discovered here is that, yeah, our larger size was okay with the bottom two pair. We got to remember those blockers here. So if we have an ace in our hand, it makes it less likely the villain has an ace. With a lower two pair, with trip like sixes or sevens, we can go larger. Try to maximize our EV in this. So I do think he got a little carried away with his check raise on the ace king, and I'm sure if we changed it and change what hands he was going to be raising with, that's going to really change what we would do. So I do think if we add ace king and ace queen to his raising range, I think now we're going to probably start having to call with ace king, but I don't think it's going to be a whole lot. I don't think it's pushing ace queen. I think we're still going to be playing fairly tightly. What about our flush draws? You can see that we're kind of giving up a lot of our flush draws. It's going to have to be some sort of combo draw here. A note that like king 8 and 10-8 are no longer calls. 10-8 you could sometimes call, but these are all like you've got a pair or you have the straight open ender, and not even all open enders. So just got to tighten up. Those check raises, they are usually stronger hands. So we'll take a note on this guy, and then we'll be done. So if you like this hand, look tomorrow. I'm planning to do another hand so that we can continue improving our game.